Okay, everybody, this is our first episode of Infernal Intercourse. I'm Marella Sands. Joining me is Brian Antonio. Would you like to introduce yourself and let us know about your theological background?
Hello, I am Pastor Brian Antonio. I just go by Brian most of the time. And I'm not your parents' pastor. I am a pastor in El Paso, Texas now. I come from St. Louis and Chicago. And my credentials, I guess, I went to undergrad at St. Louis University, a Jesuit school. And we're really theology and education were my main areas. Then to get certified for education, I studied English and speech theater communication. And then recently I was at Eden Seminary in St. Louis. And then I finished up as a presidential scholar at Chicago Theological Seminary to get my Master of Divinity so that I could be a pastor. But in that, a lot of what we're talking about comes from my undergrad theology degree at SLU, because I think the Catholic University was more interested in angelology maybe than my Protestant seminary experience. So I think that's
and I would think that will help because you were raised Catholic, right?
Yes, I was not only raised Catholic, I was a very good Catholic boy, altar boy, all those things, and everyone assumed I was going to be a priest. That I never wanted to be a priest. But I wanted to be a Franciscan, so I wanted to live in community with other men as a brother. But the hierarchy of the Catholic Church and that. I mean, I worked for them. I was a master catechist for the Archdiocese of Chicago. I taught religion in Catholic schools for many years. I was the campus minister. But ultimately, I found grace in Protestant church, especially MCC. My church is unique. We were founded to be the first safe church for LGBTQ Christians, although everyone's welcome at our church, regardless of what you believe.
Okay, so I think that'll help. I was not raised Catholic, so angels didn't really show up a lot, except you read them in the Christmas story and then forget about them immediately. So since this is a show about angels, you'll have more knowledge of angelology than I will.
We literally in grade school, depending on when they would teach us in religion, Guardian Angel's feast day is October, so we would always study it then, and we would leave space in our chair for our guardian angel, and we would pray, "Angel of God, my guardian dear, to whom God's love and trust me here ever this day be at my side, to light, to guard, to rule, to guide." We would pray those prayers, and so it was a very real thing for us in Catholic school.
Okay. All right, so let's get started with the main character on the show. Obviously, Lucifer is Lucifer. So we're positing on the show that he was in hell for a long time. I don't know how long. They haven't really said. I guess mostly just say that time moves differently there, so we don't know. But eventually gets tired of it and moves to L.A. and becomes very Los Angeles with a therapist and everything.
Yes.
So yeah, and she is my favorite character on the show. Actually, I love Linda. And the actress has got a lot of grounding. I think she was part of either Second City or the Groundlings or one of those groups. So
I didn't know that. That's great.
Get a lot of improv training. So I love her.
She has great subtlety in how she delivers things, so that makes sense.
So we're going with Lucifer being not evil. I mean, in the very first episode, he comes out and says, just because I like to run hell doesn't mean I'm evil. It just means that I'm managing the place, I guess. And something my husband pointed out is that in their hell in this show, it's pretty much runs on automatic. It kind of traps you in this time loop and just doesn't seem like it needs a lot of tinkering.
Yeah.
So exactly what Lucifer's doing all the time in hell, I'm not sure. But we now have him on planet Earth being kind of an asshole, but a charming one. Yeah. So what are your thoughts basically on the basic of the character as they're presenting him?
Well, it's interesting, and I want to remember to talk about that, how he runs hell. But just in general, the story of this canon, separate from biblical, what's biblical and what's kind of Judeo-Christian traditional, right? The tradition is that Lucifer was one of the archangels. One of it depends on the numbers. Usually some people will say 6, 8, 12 archangels. Excuse me, but he was one of them. And he was the one that wanted answers, right? He was the one that wouldn't just follow orders. And he was the one that that kind of judging God that that I rebelled against. That's not the God I worship. But we see parts of it in some parts of the Bible, but we see it more in the way people interpret the Bible. And so Lucifer kind of represents those of us that rebelled against that and said, hey, that's not fair, the way that you're judging. The book of Job, not fair, right? That's not a God I would worship. And so because of that, there was this war of angels, and Lucifer and his angels were cast down into hell, which even hell is defined differently in the Bible and in Judeo-Christian tradition. But I think it's interesting. So that all is pre-humanity in that kind of mythology. But in the show, I think it's interesting how Lucifer, I think the role he plays is, remember, people have to speak the truth to him, right? He gets them to be honest, to tell the truth. And that's what attracts him to Chloe. He can't get her to do it at first, right? So, so that's what he does, is he makes them speak the truth in hell. And so hell is of their own creation. I mean, and I think that's the basis of what their hell is for this show. But I think that's interesting because I, as a progressive Protestant theologian, I like that idea of hell is not anybody punishing us, but ourselves. And it's when we can forgive ourselves and accept forgiveness, then we can forgive others and start to act in a way that's more social, more lovable, more divine.
Yeah, they seem to project that hell is this place where you are trapped in your own guilt. And we're told the doors are unlocked. You could get out any time if you just recognize your own, if the story of the rich man and the poor man, and they're in hell or whatever, they're somewhere anyway. And the rich man tells Elijah or Moses, whoever's sitting there, tell the poor man to go get me water because I'm suffering. So clearly they're in the same place, right? But the rich man hasn't yet figured out why he's suffering, right? He hasn't figured out that he was a bad person. So it seems like in the show, if you could figure out you were a bad person, you could get out of hell. But then someone tells us, it might have been Lucifer, that no one ever has. So it's kind of a weird, you're stuck here forever, except you're not if you don't want to be, but no one has ever figured it out. So it's kind of like, so what's the point of it if no one figures it out? It seems like we need Linda to go down there and start talking to people and helping them work through their issues.
And I know we probably want to talk about God because it's such a big thing in this episode and another thing, but that kind of talks about what kind of God they're depicting here. Because honestly, God, they don't need Lucifer, right? They don't need Lucifer down there if the people aren't able to figure out how to get out of there. So the question becomes, why does God need Lucifer down there? Maybe making people be more truthful. Maybe God is hoping that people will, by speaking the truth, figure their way out of it, but that is an interesting thing. Why is God so obsessed with having Lucifer down there? And then, of course, Lucifer goes into that whole, well, why me? Why am I the one that has to be charged with this? So.
Yeah, and that's another thing. He's been told multiple times he's the angel who led a rebellion, right? But he seems to be the only person who got cast out. So it seems less rebellion, more teenage boy yells at dad, in a way. Which on Earth is like Tuesday.
Yeah. Or more. No matter what teenage boy does, dad's not satisfied, right? Like dad, it's dad who's not happy. Who the teenage boy, no matter what he does, can't live up to dad's impossible standards. So I'd flip that and I'd say God's the problem, not Lucifer. I think in both this canon and in kind of some of the ways we look at heaven and hell anyway.
Yeah, I think next time we should probably talk about the nature of God, because in that the last two episodes of season 3 were sort of tacked on because they originally thought they'd be part of season 4, so they don't really fit anywhere. But you get this one episode narrated by God, who says he just wants all his children to be happy, and that's why he's apparently done all this to Lucifer. So it's some way for Lucifer to find happiness, is to get stuck in hell, then come back to Earth, and then meet Chloe, and
And that's a really Jungian thing. Is Lucifer the most beloved, most gifted child, and that's how we get here, right? Like that feels to me like that hero quest kind of a thing. And God in God's wisdom knows that this is what Lucifer needs, whether it's fair or life-giving or not. I don't know.
Because it seems like a setup, all of it, that that God's set up something that makes Lucifer rebel, and only Lucifer apparently in this version. And then there are all these rules about you can't talk to humans, you can't live on Earth, you can't do whatever, and Lucifer breaks them all, and God seems perfectly okay with it. So, and then God has Chloe be born with this power over Lucifer, but you don't know if it's so that Lucifer will fall in love with her, or maybe just makes him vulnerable so that if she's nearby, someone can assassinate him, and maybe God wants him assassinated. You don't know, right? So,
but even when he gets shot and he's in that pool of blood or whatever, and then, you know, he descends to hell, I guess, and finds out that what moms lose, I think, is what the discovery is there, and then comes back. So again, that's interesting too. He dies, but does he? Right? And then what's the point if he dies but comes back anyway? That's a canon thing within the story that I think is interesting.
That was actually, just to get off the top a little bit, one of my favorite shots of the way they set that up, where you see him lying on the hangar floor, and as they pan through the floor, then you see him like on a ceiling, it looks like, but then they turn the camera 90 degrees and he's actually standing against a wall. So it's kind of like hell is not that far away. It's just sort of like on the other side of reality, but sort of 90 degrees off. You know, it's like it's just, it's not like, oh yeah, hell's millions of miles away. No, it's just on the other side of where you're at the corner of your eye, but not in the same orientation. So,
and that's interesting. I mean, because, you know, again, in current theology and in Catholic theology even, we talk about this heaven and hell. I mean, yes, traditionalists say up there, down there. But really, I mean, even in a fairly conservative Christian theology, you're going to say it's just, like you said, just right up against, right in our midst, but different from us, right? I mean, even Judaism, you know, traditional Judaism says there is no afterlife, and that's why we say, may your memory be a blessing, right? Because whatever you do in this life, that's what we have of it. But the Pharisaic Jews, the Jews that became the Hasidim, or even the kind of Jew that Jesus would have been, they did start to develop this theology of heaven and angels. Like that came out really after the Greeks, after they had contact with the Greeks. And so maybe even that idea coming into Judaism from Greco-Romanism.
Or did it get much from Zoroastrianism with the
most likely coming out of Babylon?
Or at the end with light and darkness, and seems to have been kind of like just lifted straight out of Zoroastrianism.
Right, like even Genesis 1, you know, where there's the watery chaos, that's right out of Zoroastrianism. And that was added much later than most of the Bible, so that makes sense.
Okay, so final things you want to say about basic things about the character of Lucifer for this first episode?
I think how they're dealing with Lucifer is very interesting. I think they draw more on the allusion to that traditional mythology we have, but I feel like Lucifer, more than anybody in this story, they're applying kind of more like a humanistic philosophy to. I think it's much more a progressive idea, understanding of humanity. I mean, I think ultimately Lucifer's maybe their depiction of what ultimate humanity looks like, really, I think. So I think that's pretty interesting.
Okay, well, thanks for joining me for episode 1, and we'll see everybody back here for episode 2.
Yes, please.
See you later.
Good to see you all. Take care.